everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Our show focuses on workplace and workforce trends. We're trying to understand the trends that are shaping your business, that are shaping businesses out there, whether they be customer trends, whether they be employment trends, whether they employee recruitment trends, whatever it may be. Each business seems to have trends that are shaping it in new ways, and the goal is to understand these trends, interpret them so that you and I can get a little bit better at what it is that we do. And I try to find the businesses with interesting stories to tell. It was driving south on Bellingrath Road. This is a road leading, if you're not from Mobile, leading from Mobile southward towards Dauphin Island, that I took notice of something that I've passed hundreds of times before. There is a silver boat sitting in the middle of a yard. It's a display, and it advertises the manufacturing business that's behind it. The silver boat sits amongst a bunch of rocks, and you can't help but notice it as you're traveling south from Theodore on Bellingrath Road on the left there, on the east side of the road. And it was headed down that road that I thought, I've passed this thing 100 times. I wonder about this business. And I've always wondered about this business. And by golly, this radio show gives me the opportunity to ask people about their business. So I put Kristen Ogden on the task, and next thing you know, we've not only got an interview set up with Silver Ships, we've got an interview at their place that includes a facility tour with Silver Ships. So John Thompson and I, the show's producer, we pack up our gear in our little bags and we get in the car and we meet there early one morning to begin this interview and meet the folks at Silver Ships and learn about their background, their past, their stories, whatever it may be. And we came away, and I think it's safe to say, amazed, impressed, envious of the process, really proud that an organization like this exists almost unrecognized in our area here in South Alabama, because the products they make are some of the best in the land at what it is that they do. Their customers keep coming back to them. One of their big customers is a group you've likely heard of called the U.S. Navy. They keep putting in orders for the products that are built there in Silver Ships, and the way they make them and how they get it is a great story. And that's the story we're going to tell on today's show. One of the things that I felt like I knew is how hard it is to find good aluminum welders. Now, I know nothing about welding, but I know there are different degrees and talents needed to weld different things, and an aluminum welder is somewhat hard to find. Well, I didn't know how, I wouldn't say plentiful they are, but how available they are in South Alabama due to complementary businesses around here that train them. So this task, which I thought was going to be a big part of the conversation of how do you find good aluminum welders, turned into be a not important part of the conversation. And you'll hear that about that in the interview. Additionally, one of my favorite subject matters that we ever get to on this show is family business and succession planning. I bet I get more comments interpersonally from fans of the show who want to talk about what they heard and what they learned about succession planning, and even more so when it's a family business. Well, Silver Ships is a family business. There is succession planning involved, and you're going to hear how Stephen Clarke dealt with this. He's the current runner. He kind of runs the show at Silver Ships, but it was his stepfather that began the company years back, and the way Stephen tells it, and this is me interpreting it, is his stepfather said, "All right, over to you." Tossed him the keys and walked out. And I'm sure the stepfather would disagree at that, but it kind of sounds like it's so many of the succession planning stories we hear are very methodical, very planned out and protracted. Not the case in what we'll hear today, and it's a fantastic story. So when we come back, I'll have Stephen Clarke with me. We'll be in his office as we record this, and we're going to learn a little bit about the story of Silver Ships, who they are, what they do. We're going to learn how tariffs have impacted his ability to get aluminum and the type of aluminum he wants and the price he's willing to pay for it, and how his government contracts have somewhat protected him from those tariffs. We'll hear how he's learned the business and so much more. It's a great show, and I'm proud that they're in our area. You're about to meet them. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Go ahead and find us online. Look for What's Working Cam on Instagram as well as on Facebook. And follow me on LinkedIn, Cam Marston on LinkedIn, where you can see updates on this show and interviews and stuff that we're working on. We'll be right back.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Cool thing happened back in '64. That's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors.
In my family, turn to the experts is more than a tagline. It's a promise. Every Keith technician is an experienced AC professional, and that saves you money. Speaking of money, how about 0% financing for up to 60 months on installations of new Carrier systems? Keith and Carrier, turn to the experts.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
The best, most cost-efficient ways to talk to customers about who you are and what you do is through signs, simple, effective signs. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Signorama is the Mobile area's leader in helping you design and build signs advertising your business. What kinds? All kinds of signs, all kinds. Find Signorama on Facebook or at signorama-mobile.com. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. I'm sitting here with Stephen Clarke, the CFO of Silver Ships on Bellingrath Road in Theodore. And folks, it's perhaps one of the coolest places I've seen in a long, long time. Stephen, this is an impressive facility. We've taken a brief tour. I'm going to ask you about a number of the things that we've seen inside there. But first, tell us the story of Silver Ships. When did it start? Why did it start? Who started it?
My stepfather, Mike McCarty, started Silver Ships in 1985, incorporated a year later in 86. And it started out, he would tell you, out of desperation. He had just sold his fish business. He owned a number of fishing trawlers, a fish processing shop, and a number of refrigerated trucks that delivered seafood all up and down the eastern seaboard. And he had sold that, was looking for his next thing to do. He's an entrepreneurial guy. He's never worked for anyone other than his father when he was younger. And he wanted to build an aluminum boat, and all welded aluminum boats had just started to become popular in the 80s. And he hired a part-time aluminum welder, worked with a guy he knew to design a boat, and then he started to build the boat, and it was going to be a seine net fishing boat for redfish, if I remember correctly. And it's the boat that's out in the front of the yard.
Yeah, that boat sits on the front, the driveway facing Bellingrath Road. You can't miss it, which is why I called you. It's like, what goes on there? And so he developed this boat intending from the very beginning to be a workboat. That's his background, is workboats.
Yes.
Yeah. And who was his first customer? Can you remember that? I'd be curious.
Let me finish with the seine net boat. It was outlawed seine net fishing for redfish. And so he's like, wow, what am I going to do with this boat now? And then one of the local businesses around here was like, hey, can you build me a aluminum workboat? Smaller, basic workboat, center console, large open deck. And he said, yeah, I'll do that. And then another guy came up and said, can I get another aluminum workboat? And just it went from there and there. And then eventually he's like, well, I guess I've really started a new business. And that's when he incorporated that year later. And he did an advertisement in Boats and Harbors, if I remember correctly. And he did an ad, aluminum workboats, started advertising, and got more and more workboats. He was out on Highway 90 in a rented facility. And then somewhere in the early 90s, he started bidding government boats. And he then started work that segued into doing work for Ambar Marine. And Ambar Marine was part of a large conglomerate, Ambar. And their primary business was oil recovery and cleanup. And they didn't have a rigid hull inflatable boat that they felt was good, sold. Zodiac, some other people had them. One of the guys had been to Norway and decided to this Ambar, or it wasn't Ambar, it was the All-Safe design, and said, this is the best thing ever. We need to build these. Well, we don't have an aluminum fabrication facility. We don't know. So they bought the design. They had to find a fabricator. They found my stepfather, Johnny Blackwell, who worked for Ambar, found my stepfather, and they started selling what became the Ambar AM 700 at first, then the AM 800, AM 900, several from there, but those were the first few. And as that continued, they eventually picked up several Navy contracts, sold several to the Navy. Ambar, their other divisions went bankrupt, I believe, or started selling off divisions. My stepfather, at great strain and great risk, bought the boat division. And that's when he got Johnny Blackwell, a couple other employees, moved to this first building here around the same time, and built it with a friend, developed this industrial park. Yeah. And he was the first building here. There were no other businesses buildings ever, but the plan was for there to be several. He built this facility here, and then had a new company with a sales staff working to market the Ambar line. They just started selling boats. They got into the Navy HSMST program.
I'm going to ask you about that HSM. I can't get those letters out as quickly as you can.
Targets, as they call them.
Targets, as they call them. So flash forward to today. How many boats are you guys putting out, and how many employees do you have?
We have almost 70 employees. Yeah. And, it ranges year to year depending on the size of the boat, but we put out anywhere from 60 to 100 boats a year. Yeah. A little over 100, yeah.
So his risk has paid off over a period of time.
His risk has paid off.
And
certainly.
Your customers range from, based on what I just saw, the Tampa Police, the U.S. Navy's got several projects going on behind these walls out there. Fire departments, the Detroit Fire Department, you mentioned other fire departments around the Utah Department of Conservation, perhaps it was, for some of their stuff. It's amazing how many different industries, not industries, but businesses or agencies have found you all here in Theodore, Alabama. Does it surprise you any day for who's calling? You get a call from somebody and you say, gosh, I never thought this would happen.
Doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of business development involved. Prior to me taking over the business, we were anywhere, depending on the year, 80 to 90% either the Navy or the Corps of Engineers. Mm-hmm. We've always had a few departments that found us by chance almost, or that we found the bid and we bid on the boat. A lot of our businesses respond to bid, but there's a lot of spec development prior. Mm-hmm. That's what we've worked on, starting a full business development office to where we're helping develop these specs. We're learning, we know what's coming out. We're developing product lines that will meet mission goals for our customer base. And now the other business, state, local, the fire departments, survey boats, commercial. We do a lot of Towboat US franchise customers. That has become, depending on the year, 50% or more of our business now.
Yeah. So you've diversified your customer base. What makes your boat special? Now, I've seen it and I'm just overwhelmed with what's going on here. But if you were to talk to a customer who's shopping you versus others, what are you going to tell them about makes your boat special?
We just really do not sacrifice on quality, even when the spec doesn't call it out. You know, we all weld our aluminum boats. We attempt to design and are mostly successful every boat to meet ISO B stability standards. Some of the smaller boats don't meet it. It's just physics. It's impossible. But every boat over a certain size definitely meets the ISO B stability standard.
Tell me about that engineering department that we just saw. All the 3D design. There is no surprises in anything that's being built. Everything is spec'd out to within it looks like half an inch on the interior as well as exterior of the boat, perhaps even smaller.
We design everything to a high degree of accuracy. And this is how we're able to meet these strict standards that we set for ourselves. Sometimes it's set in the contract, but there's a lot of standards we set for ourselves to meet the quality standard we want to meet. And 3D modeling every boat, having CNC routers to cut out the boats, having CNC press brakes to bend the metal allows us to maintain that level of precision in engineering and fabrication that creates a superior product. Are
your customers are aware of the specs, the high specs that you give yourself and that you achieve? Are they, do they come back to you at a later date and go, man, it looked beautiful the day you delivered it, but now that we're operating it, we see something that we didn't see initially?
All the time.
All the time.
It happens, especially the state and local. The Navy expects this level of detail and design.
Uh-huh.
Having really grown the business, building to Navy standards, we wanted to apply those Navy standards, or all of them that made sense, all the things that increased the durability, all the things that increased the longevity, the performance of the boat. We wanted to meet those same standards for our state and local and commercial customers.
When you sign a Navy deal, I mean, there's so many Navy boats back there. When you sign a Navy deal, it's got to be difficult to get that work. But once you get it, is it a repeat process? Do you have to keep earning it each time?
You have to keep earning it each time.
Really?
The majority of the contracts are 5-year IDIQ contracts. Everything started moving to that in the 2000s. And that's so they weren't rebidding these boats out every year. Some of them are 2 or 3 year contracts, but most of them are 5-year. And there's a whole process, spec development process, where the Navy reaches out to industry, some of the builders they know, ourselves and our competition, the ones that have built for them in the past, and they say, well, this is the boat that we're thinking about building.
Yeah.
And does this make sense? Can you even build this? These are the specs. Can it meet this speed with twin engines, or do you need triple engines to meet that speed requirement? So they work through spec development to meet their mission parameters, and then they come out with a preliminary RFP, request for proposal, and that's where we get to have comments on it.
Yeah. And when we come back from break, I want to talk to you about the engineering facility that I just toured and the 3D specs and the computers that they have. Folks, it's just amazing what goes on out here. We'll be back after this break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We'll be back with Stephen Clarke with Silver Ships.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com, or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
Cool thing happened back in '64. That's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors. And And ever since then, they've earned your family's trust, fixing your AC when it bites the dust. So call Keith Air Conditioning, they're number one. Keith Air Conditioning, they get it done. Award-winning service, done with pride. With Keith, you're gonna sleep in comfort tonight.
3 generations and 2 names you can count on, Keith and Carrier. Hi, this is Brent Keith. Turn to the experts is not just a tagline in my family, it's a promise. Every technician is an experienced air conditioning professional. Their money-saving experience and expertise diagnoses your problem accurately and efficiently. Speaking of money, we're offering $25 off our introductory price for a total comfort maintenance plan. And ask about our specials on new Carrier systems. Keith and Carrier, the experts you turn to.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess. Mom! Work from home is a lot of work. Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Human Resource Departments spend countless hours on insurance billing mistakes, Obamacare rules, and compliance. Employee benefits serve the purpose of recruiting, retaining, and rewarding employees. We can handle all of your benefit needs with cost-effective products, employee enrollments, and handle your HR issues. Benefit admin doesn't have to be complicated. My name is Michael Cowart Jr. of the Cowart Group, and we specialize in helping businesses with their employee benefit packages. Visit CowartAssociates.com.
Stephen Clarke's stepfather began Silver Ships back in the mid-'80s. His goal was to create a workboat, and it has evolved into something off of Bellingraph Road here in Theodore that would impress anyone, particularly those of us, and I raise my hand when I say this, that love a factory tour. What's going on behind these walls, folks, is just amazing. And the beauty of these things as they're come together, and the customer base that he has here is really quite impressive. Now, one of the things that you took us through, Stephen, when we first got here was the engineering department. You've got 4 or 5 naval architects, is that right?
We have 2 naval architects, 2 3D designers, and an electrical engineer, and an outfit designer.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to find these people. Are they, where have you found them? What's the process of finding, let's say, a naval architect? One of the things I want to discuss with you is where you find your welders, because I know they're in demand, and particularly welding aluminum. I think that's supposed to be a very hard thing to do, or it's a level of welding that is not easily accomplished. It's kind of an advanced level of welding, the way I understand it. I want you to clarify that. But when they've all gushed about their workplace, how much they enjoy working here, where do you find them? What do they have in common, the people that you bring into this workplace?
Well, I'll start with the aluminum welders.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have Alstel and AIDT training so many aluminum welders here in the Mobile Bay area. We really don't have a problem finding aluminum welders and skilled aluminum welders. It's one of the easier positions for us to fill.
Really? Good.
I don't think it's that way everywhere else in the country. In fact, I'm sure it's not. So we're fortunate there. We're able to find a good workforce. Aluminum welding is not enough. We kind of have our own fabrication techniques, the way we do things, a higher level quality control that we have to train them to. So, and to combat that, we really try to keep turnover down.
Mm-hmm.
So, far as the engineering department, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's really a challenge to find naval architects and designers that have experience with high-speed craft.
Yeah. So when you say high-speed craft, what does that mean? Well, give me some ranges.
I would say that's anywhere from 40 knots. The high end would be 60 knots. I've heard of higher, but that would be the high end. So
yeah.
40 knots top speed.
Yeah. And I want to get to the Suzuki work that you do here, which is part of the motors. But I saw that you have Mercury's back there, you have Yamaha's back there. You got many different types of motors in the back, but it's all so much of it is dependent on the shape of the hull and the weight of the boat.
Yes.
Yeah. And the way I understand it, there's nothing that doesn't come out of the computer that is not forecast to a great degree of certainty regarding the speed that's achievable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we fully 3D model the boat before it enters production. We try to work out all those small design details that can affect the performance, the longevity, the durability of the boat, the buoyancy. When we work out all those details, we often, especially a speed critical boat, we will do fluid dynamics to see if we're going to meet the speed. Computer fluid dynamic software, we run the 3D model using that software, and to a high degree of accuracy, we know what speed the boat's going to hit with that propulsion package.
Who is doing similar work to you, not just locally, but nationwide? Who do you look out there that you admire?
Well, it's different for different companies. One of our competitors, our largest competitor, is Metal Shark. A lot of their engineering work I admire. They do really good work, do good work in business development. They do very good work in their corporate structure. I think some of that's size. More revenue, it's easier to hire more people, to more mid-level managers to better manage the process. North River up in Oregon, another one of our larger competitors, they mostly do commercial and recreational in the Northwest, do some government. Their weld quality is very good.
Really?
They're the only competitor that we have that I would is competitive with our level of weld quality, I would say, for the boat builds.
That's interesting that you keep up with these types of things to see what your customers are evaluating, stuff like that. You want to know what the marketplace is showing them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I couldn't help but notice that your workforce was much younger than I anticipated. And I don't know why I expected to see kind of a senior, graying, experienced, wisdom-driven workforce, but it's a young crowd out there. How do you recruit people? So many of my clients struggle to recruit and retain a young workforce. But you don't seem to have a problem based on what I've seen.
I think there's a couple factors there.
Yeah. Now, this is about to be gold. Everybody that's listening has leaned in. Go ahead with your factors.
The first factor, we have a fairly young management team. I'd say that's harder, including middle management team. Now, we do have experienced older managers, and I don't like calling them older. They're guys that have been doing this for a long time. Their experience is very valued.
They'll call them more senior managers.
Yeah, senior managers where that experience is super important. But at the team lead level, at the foreman level, most of those guys are in their 30s, so they know more people in their 20s that are welders, that are outfitters, that are marine electricians, and they recruit them, and then we train them up, teach them. That's how we retain and have a younger workforce. The other element is I think that boat building and shipbuilding, the maritime industry, is very popular in the Gulf Coast region. And I think there's it's mostly men. I think there's a lot of young men that want to work in this industry, and that attracts them to this company and other similar marine industry within the region.
The word that I would use is sexy. It's a sexy business. You walk through those finishing departments that we saw over there, it's sexy. The machines that you use to cut the aluminum, that's pretty cool stuff. I know it's what you do every day, but to a guy like me, it's pretty cool. You're making big, heavy things that do stuff. And you walk out at the end of the day and you can see the work that's been done. It started here and it ended up here by the end of the day. And then do you get comments or pictures from your clients, your customers to say, look at what our boat is doing, stuff like that?
All the time.
All the time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Do your employees sign the boat?
Yeah. Well, if you mean they sign their work, a lot of the aluminum welders will sign off, put their initials or their last name where they welded.
Yeah.
But
so
we put a plaque for Silver Ships, and that represents our entire team on every project other than the targets.
Yeah. So when you and I first shook hands or touched elbows here in the Corona time earlier today, we talked briefly about the succession plan that got you where you were. The story that I've kind of picked up, gleaned a little bit, and I want the official story, is your stepfather just one day tossed you the keys and said, I'm done. Good luck. I'm sure it can't be that way. Tell me about the succession plan, because so many of our listeners are family business.
Well, let me start by saying I never, ever thought I would be running Silver Ships.
Yeah.
Never. That just wasn't even in my mind. I had moved first to North Carolina. I went to the University of Miami, both undergrad and graduate school, business school. And then I went to North Carolina, then Oregon. I thought I'd be in Oregon or the Northwest area for the rest of my career. And my stepfather had come out to visit a couple times and finally called me one day, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm looking to sell the business, and I need some help with this. You know, my background, educational background is corporate accounting and finance. And I was like, sure, yeah. And I knew he had not focused much on the accounting side, the bookkeeping side. He had never had an inventory done.
Yeah.
So we came in and we started the process of working up. I flew in a few times, working up, trying to get the business ready to sell. And he had 2 buyers that were interested at one point, and both of them, ultimately, the deals fell through. And I think through that process, you'd have to ask him, but I think through that process, he became very impressed with what I had learned, where I was in my career. You know, I was no longer some teenage kid, you know, going off to the University of Miami. I'd spent some years in business, learned a lot from my mentors. And he said, do you want to run it? And I said, let me think on it. So, 6 months later, after that first conversation, we started a plan. And then 6 months after that, I moved my wife, who's luckily from Mobile also.
Yeah.
Me and her picked up, moved back to Mobile, and I took over the business. And then we knew we had to diversify the business, our customer base. Quickly, I knew we had to start our own design department, and I knew we had to build out our business development department. And we focused on those 3 things, and continuing to improve our accounting, cost accounting particularly, that affects so much in a business. We built out those departments, grew the business, and since then we've grown revenue by 50%.
Nice.
more.
How long ago was that?
Just over 5 years ago is when I started.
Not long ago then.
Yes.
So are all those projects, you mentioned 3 projects. You had to do your own engineering, you had to do your cost accounting a little bit more, and build out your business development side. Do you feel those are completed now, or are they all still a work in process?
I would say they're 80% complete now.
Yeah.
It's always a work in process.
What's the next challenge?
The next challenge is we would like to pick up the U.S. Coast Guard as one of our big customers to the same level as the U.S. Navy.
Yeah. Is there a particular product that you feel the Coast Guard should be looking at? Model boat
a couple.
back there?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Coast Guard has the TAM-B, which is a buoy tender they build. It's a large project. We're going to focus on winning that. They also have the RBS, which is one of the boats they build the most of, or they have the most of, and we're going to focus on bidding and winning that project.
You heard it here first. This is Stephen Clarke. He's the CFO and is running Silver Ships here on Bellingrath Road in Theodore. A remarkable story. When we come back from break, we're going to talk to him about the impact of COVID. We're going to talk to him as well about the cost of materials and the imports issue that's going on nationally. We'll be right back. This is What's Working, brought to you by Regions.
Life insurance is one of those subjects that make people want to change the subject rather than admit they probably don't have enough. I'm State Farm agent Allison Horner, and that's why I focus on how the benefits of life insurance actually live on by asking people to think in terms of life without having to sell the house insurance, or life without having to give up college insurance. Find out how the benefits of life insurance can live on for your family. Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, and get to a better state with State Farm.
That's the sound of rush hour. Hello, recess.
Mom!
Work from home is a lot of work.
Mommy!
Even though we're a little further apart right now, we're still in this together. Regions is donating this ad to local food banks to shine a light on them as they feed our neighbors in need. Learn how you can help or get help at regions.com/foodbank. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
This is Cam Marston, host of What's Working. Jim Mitchell and his team at Signorama have provided all types of signage for nearly every event I've been a part of for years. I know his team's creativity, their multitude of products, and how easy they are to work with. His No Mistake Signorama is South Alabama's marketplace leader. Find Signorama on Facebook. Call 634-0100 or visit next to Mullinex Ford on Airport Boulevard.
A cool thing happened back in '64. That's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors.
In my family, turn to the experts is more than a tagline. It's a promise. Every Keith technician is an experienced AC professional, and that saves you money. Speaking of money, how about 0% financing for up to 60 months on installations of new Carrier systems? Keith and Carrier, turn to the experts.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
Stephen Clarke is the CFO of Silver Ships. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. Interested in talking to Stephen about the future marketplace. Stephen, you were talking about the Navy contract, and you hope to duplicate that with the Coast Guard contract. Is there other markets out there that you all are pursuing here?
We're focusing on the fireboat market, and we're focusing growing our law enforcement market. We currently have 6 fireboats in production, and my goal is to make Silver Ships the premier builder of fireboats in North America.
In North America. Do you have a lot of international clients, customers?
A few, not a
few.
lot.
Yeah. And where would those be? Are they North American, or is it just too cost prohibitive to make something and send it to Italy?
Well, often there are boat builders in Australia and Europe, aluminum boat builders. We have some boats in the Caribbean. We have a few boats in Latin America. We have some boats in the Philippines, but those were Navy FMS sales, foreign military sales, through the U.S. Navy.
I see. Interesting, though, that there can be those that are that many places. You must buy, I was about to say almost tongue-in-cheek, a ton of aluminum. You don't buy a ton of aluminum. You buy tons and tons of aluminum.
Yes, I buy tons and tons of aluminum a year.
And they come from, you told me that it's manufactured in Italy.
Currently, our main supplier is Slim Facina of Italy.
And is that a result of the tariff wars out of China? Would you be buying China otherwise?
No, we've never seen quality aluminum out of China, but the tariff affects the Italian metal too. Greek metal, also most of their metal is coming from Greece, and it affects their metal too.
How have you combated that, or have you? Or are you just having to pass that on to your customers?
Mostly we're having to pass it on to our customer. The Navy contracts, most of them, not all, of the federal military contracts, you can get a waiver for any of the tariffs that are for those projects. The aluminum purchased specifically for that project, but there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of detail to get those tariffs waived.
Really? And do you have somebody on your staff that goes through that manages that paperwork? Or am I looking at that person?
You're looking at that person.
So the tariffs are a very real part of your business right now. As we talk, the COVID crisis continues to control so much of our behavior every day. What has that done to your business?
We've had to take more precautions, cleaned more. We've stressed. Normally, our employees work 2-3 max per boat, and with the same people day in and day out at each stage in the fabrication or boat building process. So that helps us. We don't have a bunch of people crammed together, close together. So that's been a big help. We've been lucky and a lot of faith in my workforce that they've always reported. The few that have caught COVID before they came into work, they've been in contact. Their spouse, almost every time, had COVID. They reported, quarantined, didn't come back to work till they had 2 negative tests.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I want to go back to the workplace, or not the workplace, but the marketplace. You told me that you began a relationship with Suzuki not long ago.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, we felt that Suzuki was one of the best values out there for an outboard, price and performance. It is the best value. The management at Suzuki approached me at the Miami Boat Show and asked me if we wanted to start our own service center here at Silver Ships. They had a good service center in Baldwin County in Orange Beach, but not one in Mobile County. And I said yes. And so it took us a year to get it up and running, but June 1st this year, right just in time for COVID, we started our own Suzuki Service Center. There's a corner of our outfitting rigging shop that is dedicated to Suzuki service and repair, and it's already generates positive cash flow.
So if I were to be the owner of a boat with a Suzuki motor on it, how would I learn about you? Are you now on their website, or do I call a 800 number and they say, here's where you go?
We are on their website. We also have our own, it's a dedicated division of Silver Ships, Gulf Coast Suzuki. We have a couple billboards. We have a website, social media, advertising, several venues, and social media. Yeah.
So your attempts to diversify revenue continue with Suzuki.
Yes, our attempts to diversify revenue continue with Suzuki.
And you're talking about picking up Coast Guard contracts, more fireboat contracts. The push for a diverse revenue stream seems to be in the forefront of a lot of what you're doing these days.
Yes.
Is that about right?
That is correct.
And it'll never be enough of a diverse revenue stream.
No. I disagree with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We want to stick to aluminum, all welded aluminum workboats. And we want to stay into a certain size range, I'd say 20 to 60-foot boats. Any bigger, we really need to be on the water by design. My stepfather's design, we're landlocked.
Yeah.
That has a lot of overhead cost savings, and it keeps us in our lane. Anything less than 20 feet, really most things less than 25 feet, it's not competitive. The level of quality that we endeavor to maintain, there's just too many more inexpensive boats that compete in that smaller range.
So if you could go to the marketplace and find any skilled labor that you need right now, what do you need more of?
Marine electricians, specifically with training in marine electronics, and outboard mechanics.
For the Suzuki division, the outboard mechanics, or no?
We need it for the Suzuki division and for our new build boats. There's, rigging up an entire propulsion system, steering, outboards. It's pretty involved.
Where do you find the marine electronics people that you have? They're not just floating around. Is it a degreed program?
It's not a degreed program, but it is a certified program. We look for people with ABYC certification in marine. There's several ABYC certifications, but the best one for us is marine electronics.
Yeah. So if you were to meet somebody on an airplane back when we used to fly somewhere and they say, what do you do? What is your answer?
We build all-weld aluminum boats, mostly high-speed craft, but also some workboats. And the main focus is quality, durability.
If I were to buy one of these boats, how many years can I expect to get out of it?
I'd say easily 50 years. If you maintain the boat, you can easily get 50 years out of the hull.
Which reminds me, we didn't even talk about this. You have a refurb division that they're sent back and dressed back up again.
Often. We've had boats that have been refurbed twice. That's where we strip everything off the boat. A complete refurb is where we strip everything off the boat down to bare aluminum. We blast the hull. We repaint, or sometimes a boat's unpainted. We clear coat it, and then we rig all new equipment on it. Of course, the equipment's not going to last 50 years, but the hull can easily last 50 years.
So one of these days, an archaeologist will uncover things 1,000 years from now, and your boat may be a little bit worse from wear, but it will still be, you said 50 years, they'll still be able to see the work and the weld and the quality of the work that you guys did.
Yes, we do not let a hull leave our facilities unless it's built to our standards.
Folks, it's out here in the pride of everyone we've spoken to thus far, the work that they've shown us, the cleanliness of the facilities is something that's leapt out at us as well. It's another one of these hidden gems in our community of people making glorious products for their clients and you just don't know a whole lot about them, and it's a crying shame. Stephen, appreciate your time. This has been fascinating. We wish you the best of luck on this.
And thank you for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Folks, we'll be back with final comments after this. You're listening to What's Working. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be back.
Do you sometimes wonder about different money topics, but struggle to find the answers? The Every Dollar Counts podcast with Gulf Coast experts Josh Knoll and Jay Stubbs is made for those folks serious about their financial plan and looking for answers. Josh and Jay dedicate their time to explaining the various services and products available, as well as discussing lifestyle and money interests of the modern-day family. Tune in to Every Dollar Counts on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else you get your favorite podcasts.
Even if we don't meet in person, Regions is still here for you. We make it easier for you to stay informed and in control with online and mobile banking. You can check balances, transfer money, pay bills, deposit checks with Regions Mobile Deposit, and even set up helpful alerts no matter where you are. We're here to make it easier to bank your way. Learn more at regions.com/tools. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. My Carrier Infinity system is quiet, energy efficient, and runs like a dream. To keep it running smoothly, I rely on a maintenance plan from Keith Air Conditioning. With a Keith maintenance plan, your home or business receives discounts and 24/7 priority service. Give Keith Air Conditioning a call today at 251-476-3610 or visit keithair.com. Keith and Carrier. Turn to the experts.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are, so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Do you have a plan to protect your income if you can't work? We'd all like to believe that we'll never be disabled, but the reality is it could happen to you. And if it does, will your income be protected, your family be cared for? Richard Otts has served the Gulf Coast since 1997. If you'd like more information about disability insurance, contact Richard, 251-342-8917. That's 251-342-8917.
I can't thank Stephen enough for allowing John Thompson and me to tour his manufacturing facility. I almost called it a studio. It is kind of studio in that many of the things that we saw in there appear more works of art than workboats, as he described them. But he led us around. He let us see this stuff. He let us get up close to a lot of these things. And I think the manufacturing teams that were in there looked at us and thought, this isn't all that special. Well, to a guy like me who doesn't get to see things get made, it was indeed special. And one of the highlights was looking in the engineering room. There are these guys it's in an old house. And they build their own computers, by the way, because of the engineering demands on the computer, the computing power necessary. They build their own computers, of course. And the 3D images that they were showing and the ability of the technology that they have at their hands to predict and to work with the imagery and predict what the boat's going to look like and how it's going to sit on the water and where the water will touch the hull of the boat when it's on a plane and where the water will touch the hull of the boat when it's taking a turn. Just fantastic. It's really... And it is maybe common to most businesses. This may be common to most boat manufacturers. To me, man, I was a kid in a candy store. One of my favorite Instagram feeds, if that's what it's called, is center consoles only. It's center console sport fishing boats. And I flip through there and I look at them and I love them. And if you're a fan of the show, you may remember that we interviewed Regulator Joan and Owen Maxwell, the owners of Regulator, which is based in Edenton, North Carolina. They make a very fancy sports fishing boat, and loved the conversation with them, and actually became a consultant to them and got to spend time in their facility, and just had a hard time paying attention to the beauty of the boat. Anyway, at Silver Ships, it was the same way. The manufacturing process and seeing what they were doing, and Stephen's tour that he gave us, and watching them cut the aluminum, or the machines cut the aluminum. And I just love that stuff. I really do. As a guy that has always been in kind of the consulting, the information delivery, the knowledge delivery business, and who doesn't get his hands dirty seeing stuff made, and that's not a derogatory comment. It's actually an envious comment. Going into a manufacturing facility and seeing the process is a treat for people like me. One of the things that I noticed is the welders. We've talked about this. Those guys were busy. The marine electronics guys that were installing all the electronics in the boat, those guys were busy. Everybody in there was busy. But it reminded me of some of the information that I've been seeing that is kind of COVID related, and has to do with recessions. And I thought I'd share this real quick as we wrap the show up. And that is this. And I actually talked about this with a guy not long ago on his podcast. People that graduate, whether it be high school or college, during times of a recession, have a hard time. They struggle their entire lives to get to where people who's graduated outside of a recession in normal times and growth times, the people who graduate during a recession struggle to get to even footing compared to those who graduated outside of recession. There are a lot of them that's happening to right now today due to the nature of the economy. But as I walked through that manufacturing facility at Silver Ships, and Stephen pointed these people out to me and what they were doing, I couldn't help but think, these guys, if they're semi-nice and polite and work hard and show up and don't come to work drunk, they're going to have a welding job their entire lives, and I kind of envy them. Because business has been tough for a guy like me in the knowledge business. Nobody needs knowledge. They need cash flow right now. And they're not hiring me. They're hiring people that know that can keep the lines open. So I share this information with you. If you've got somebody close to you graduating high school or college or even post-collegiate, right now, during this quote-unquote recession driven by COVID, my encouragement is for you to encourage them to continue their education at all costs. And it doesn't mean don't go to work. It means continue working if they are, and enhance it with more and more education. It's the thing that's going to set them aside. If you've got a business out there, folks, that you think we should interview, that you think's got a good story to tell, that can teach the listeners something, reach out to me. Let me know who they are. You can find What's Working with Cam Marston at Facebook as well as on Instagram. Email me, cam@whatsworkingcam.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. This show is produced by John Thompson. He was my pal, my buddy, as we went to Silver Ships, and he was as amazed as I was. And the interviews are arranged by Kristen Ogden, a great asset to the show without a doubt. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by Regions. We love this show. We love what it does. We love the education it brings to us. If you've got comments for us, please share them. We'll talk to you next week.